Okay, we'll start. A very good afternoon to all students. So, welcome to the fourth day on the online placement awareness and internship opportunities program. In today's program, we have the resource person, Mr. Jitin. So, Jitin is from the Panimalar Engineering College CS department from the batch 2013 to 2017. He is selected in all the companies during this placement and he joined Infosys. And the list of companies he got selected is Infosys, Cognizant, Wipro, and Accenture, and he chose his career with Infosys. He did internship at Infosys during the last semester, then joined as systems engineer in the year 2017. He was promoted as senior system engineer in the year 2019, managed on-site and offshore RPA project during his tenure at Infosys. He moved to UiPath in the year 2020. Currently, he is working as a senior RPA developer in UiPath. And I'm very proud to say he is one of my students. And Mr. Jitin,
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
you can take over the session. Thank you.
Sure. Are you able to see my screen, sir?
Yeah, it's visible, Mr. Jitin.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a wrong time of the day, I guess. It's a good time to sleep, but I'm happy that all of you have joined and here for the session. So my name is Jitin Gangadharan. So as sir told, I studied here in 2013 to 17. And after that, I worked with Infosys for 3 years, and then I moved to UiPath in October 2020, and currently I'm working there. So what I wanted to tell you was I wanted to introduce you to a new technology called RPA that has been in the market for like the last 3-4 years. Since all of you are going to be like first year and second year students now, I think it's a good time for you to take up these emerging technologies that are in the market so that once you move into your placements during a third and fourth year, you will be well equipped and you are like perfectly placed to attend these interviews. So just to give an overview about RPA before moving on how to prepare and how to proceed with your interviews. So RPA stands for robotic process automation. So one thing that whenever I talk about RPA or robotic process automation, all of you like think about Chitti the robot, right? So that is not going to be the case here. Here everything is going to be software and it's going to be coding that you have to write. So what we are going to do is basically there are IT employees, right? So people who do Excel work, people who do like all this PowerPoint work, all the works on MS Word, browsers, all these things. So we are going to automate the work for them. So whatever the human is doing, we are going to mimic the same actions. Like he may log into his work, he may do some Excel operations, he may open a browser. All these things, same thing is going to be done automatically by the robot. So we are going to write the code for all these things. So that is what RPA is all about. So RPA mainly is about decision making, where we'll have to instruct the bot what decision to take. For example, you open a browser, the website is not available. So what do you do in that case? You have to maybe send out an email, and in some cases the website is available. So in that case, you again have to train the robot to enter the username and password and then proceed further. So all these things. Not only this is a very simple scenario. There may be multiple scenarios. You search for a file, the file is not available. So what do you do in that case? What not to do in that case? So in all these scenarios, RPA can be used where we can train the bot to make simple decisions uh, and complex decisions as well. And we can also include artificial intelligence and all these things so that it becomes on par with how human works. So RPA is going to be nothing but it is going to work like the hands, feet, and eyes. Okay. So robots again cannot think. So same thing. Again, if you see Ender in the movie, you tell Chiti to turn on the TV, it puts the TV down, right? It's the same thing here as well. So it's again going to be how efficient you are in coding the robots that makes RPA more efficient. Okay. Now, what is not RPA? So I talked about all about software here. So any industrial robot, so you see these big robots that makes these cars and all these things, right? And then we have robots that talk and all these things. So these things are not RPA. So only the ones where we automate the work for people based on software actions, that is what we call as RPA. So wherever we have a repetitive process, wherever we have lots of rule-based process, very few exceptions are going to occur, and there are going to be lots of people doing the same amount of work. All these processes can easily be automated. Okay. Some people they tell that every day I go to office, I do the same work every day. It's very boring, and I'm not doing something different. Every day I do the same Excel work. So what we can do is we can automate this work for them so that they can move into some other better work where they will have to think, use their brain, make decisions, and all these things. So that is what RPA is all about. So whenever we talk about RPA, what people think is RPA is going to replace humans, but that is not going to be the case. So anyway, you need someone to code these robots, right? So if you move into some other technology, what happens is this RPA is going to replace your work. But the people who write RPA code or people who bring up these robots, all these things, that is not going to be replaces. There should be someone to code these robots. So robots are not capable of coding themselves. So humans are still going to be there in the IT industry, but RPA is definitely going to like replace some amount of the workforce who are not doing some intelligent work. So that is where RPA is going to come in. And RPA, always people feel that RPA can automate anything. Okay, again, that is not going to be the case. RPA cannot automate anything. So there are a lot of things where the human intervention would be needed. Simple example is you automate a payment system. Definitely, you will get an OTP, right? OTP is going to come into your phone. If you get it on an email, you can like scan your emails and do some work there. But if you don't get it on your phone, or maybe there is some encrypted documents, something like that, in that case, RPA cannot work. So definitely, you will need someone to manually enter the passcode. Same example is when you go to Google, you get this captchas, right? It asks you like select all the boxes where there are trucks, select all the boxes where there are where there are traffic lights, all these things. So these things are going to be very difficult for robots to automate. Your Anna University website where we enter the username, I mean the registration number, the date of birth, and then we have to enter a captcha, right? So that captcha is going to be difficult. So that again cannot be automated by RPA here. So such scenarios, we will definitely need some human intervention there. So RPA is not capable of automating anything here. And then people also believe that RPA is all about AI and ML. So RPA works with AI and ML. So you can bring in your AI modules, you can bring in your ML modules and all these things, and you can integrate RPA with AI and ML. But robots are not capable of thinking with themselves. Okay, suppose if there is a wrong scenario, the robot will not know what to do. It is going to get stuck at that point in time. So you will again have to code those scenarios, and only then robots are going to be helpful there. So moving on to the job prospects regarding RPA. So these are some of the examples of the companies that are currently into RPA. So RPA, like I told you, is again a booming technology. So it has just been brought into the market over the last 3 years. Now, though the expansion of RPA in India has been a bit low, but outside it has been like picking up very fast now. And now even the companies in India have started like realizing the potential of RPA. For example, the banking sector, if you see ICICI, SBI, all these banks have now have RPA. So your loan application, your account opening, all these, right? They take hardly 5 minutes or 2 minutes here. So have you ever wondered like what happens in the background? So you fill up all your forms, the robots take over that, and they do all the backend processing, and and you get the result within a couple of minutes. That is what happens in the banking sector. So coming to your telecom sector, again, your internet is not working. You raise a ticket on a portal, right? That your internet is not working. Again, robots take care of that. They route it to the correct person. The person gets it on his mailbox. He does the work. Again, he updates status. You get an automated mail saying that your internet may be fixed now. Please check. Similarly, retail goods is also a very common example where like all the products that come into the market, you want in any supermarket that you go, you may want to know like what is the current order status, like how many products have been sold, how many are still available. So all these things are going to be taken care by robots again here. Common examples are Walmart, McDonald's, PepsiCo. I've just put a few company name that I could fit onto the slide, but there are lots of companies again that are using RPA. Technology, IT services, healthcare, then the courier services, other companies, airlines, everywhere you are using RPA now. So, so now you have seen about all the companies that are currently using RPA. So what are the famous RPA tools out there in the market? So you have tools like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, Nice, WorkFusion. Common examples, Abby, SAP, Microsoft also has an RPA platform. So all these tools are going to have RPA components here. So using these RPA tools only, the companies are going to do all their RPA work here. So in that case, what we will have to do to be the best in the market. So how do we stand out from the rest of the people in the market? So we will have to pick up a tool. For example, you can check out the features of all the tools. There is UiPath and Automation Anywhere and Blue Prism, who are the market leaders now. UiPath being the top and Automation Anywhere being the second. So you can pick up the features of all these tools here. You can see like what is it, what is happening in this tool, how do I develop some robots using these tools, all these things. And whichever you feel you're comfortable with, you can always pick one of them up. You can start learning on that. Okay. So for any of these tools, whichever you pick it up, everything is going to be free and available online. There is going to be no paid courses or anything like that. Everything is available free of cost online itself. So you can pick up any of the tool and you can check out the features of the tool. You can try out, do a hands-on, and then start working with it. So what are the various job prospects for an RPA, for someone who knows RPA. Okay. So now some of you may be very interested in coding. Okay. Some of you may be very interested in marketing. Some of you may be very interested in designing products. Some of you may want a UI developer. Some of you may be good at IT or maybe all the infrastructure, all these things. So for each and every one of you, there is a job prospect available in the RPA market. So for coders, you can either become RPA developers, and for infrastructure people who may want to work with all the networking and all these things, you can become RPA infra engineers. Some of you may be good at designing products. So you can become RPA solution architects where you can design how the RPA has to work. Then some of you may be good at gathering requirements. You may want to speak to clients. You may want to understand like what is their problem, all the speaking work, right? Some of you may be good at that, doing the analysis, picking up PPTs and all these things. You can become RPA business analyst. Some of you may be good at training, right? So these people, what you can do is the trainers, they can become RPA educators, where you can take classes on RPA sessions. You can teach people how to like how to get trained in RPA, how to the certifications, all these things. So for each and every one of you, there is a job prospect available in the RPA market. So what again I would suggest is that you can like think about which one is best for you. Okay, you can think about which one is best for you, and then you can pick up a job profile. So whichever you feel that is best for you, you can always pick up the job profile and start training for that. So now you have just gone into your second year, right? So you will still have like semester holidays after your third semester, your fourth semester, and all these things. So you can always pick up any one of the courses. Maybe for example, you may have an RPA developer course, or you can have an RPA citizen developer course. All these courses, you can start learning on that, and you can start trying it out. So here, rather than just seeing the videos, it's all going to be a hands-on, right? Because only when you do a hands-on, you will know what is the practical problems, what are the challenges that we're facing, how do I automate this, how do I automate this. You will get all your queries there, or you will get all your you will have all your questions there. So when you research more on that, that is when you become more efficient as a developer here. Now, how do I start my learning prospects here? How do I do my learning here? Now that I have decided like which job I want or which stream I want to go in, how do I do my learning here? So in the RPA community, so you have something called as academy.uipath.com. So I'm speaking more from a UiPath perspective. The same thing goes on for Automation Anywhere or Blue Prism also. So Automation Anywhere also has an academy. Blue Prism also has an academy here. So on all these academy, all courses are going to be free. Okay. So since what they want is now there is a massive crunch for RPA developers. So even I've been doing interviews now, and we are not finding the people with the perfect skill set here. That is the problem. So we have around maybe 100, 200 openings, and we are getting like 500 applications, but we are only able to select like 5 or 10 of them. The major problem is that they have not done their proper RPA trainings here, or they have not done their proper courses here. So they know everything theoretically, but when I ask them some practical based questions, when I ask them like, have you practiced this? They are not aware and they don't know how to do this. So how do you overcome this? So just like I told you that you are going to have various streams in RPS. Some of them may be technical, some of them may be non-technical, like an RPA developer, solution architect, infrastructure engineer. So for all these things, you are going to have courses on the UiPath Academy. If you want to start up an RPA developer, you can first take up the foundation training. The foundation is going to be nothing but they are going to teach you all about the basics here. Then they are going to move into advanced training. There is an orchestrated training, SAP automation training. So a lot of trainings are there. If you want to go into designing products, again for the solution architect also, you're going to have foundation training, orchestrated training, advanced training, all these things. Same goes for infrastructure engineer, technical support, business analyst, implementation manager. For all these things, you are going to have these training courses available here. So you can take up whichever you want, and you can obviously like start working on that. So it is not going to be a one-day process, right? You cannot become an RPA developer, or you cannot become skilled in any of the any of the subject in a single day. So it is going to take like, let's say, months of efforts. So you can start today. I think today is never late, right? You can start today, pick up whichever course you want, and then you can start working on that. You can take up a foundation training, you can take up a orchestrated training, you can take up an advanced training, whatever you want. So there may be like 40-hour courses, 50-hour courses, 80-hour courses. So take one hour training at a time. So you will have 80 days. That's all you need. So rather than spending time on other things, take up all these small things and then start working on that. So that would be my suggestion. That would be my suggestion here. So now once you have done your training, how do you apply for these jobs here? So how do you apply for these jobs, and how do you apply for internships as well? So you can always log into their job portals. So on the job portals of if you go to the website of any of the RPA vendors, for example, you go to UiPath, you go to Automation Anywhere, you go to Blue Prism, any company, there will definitely be lot of jobs and lot of internship opportunities available for all the people who are doing their college courses here. Okay, so you can just apply there. You will definitely get a response back. So some of them may feel that your skill set is not correct. They may ask you to retrain. That may be some questions here. And some of them, they will get selected right away. They will schedule an interview with you. So always keep looking at these job portals. See when the jobs are opening up. See when internship opportunities are opening up, and then try getting an internship. Try getting a like a job opportunity with them. Again, there are opportunities available for business analysts, for developers, consultants, solution architects. So whichever you feel is correct, again, go and apply for those jobs. See what response you are getting. So usually the interview process is going to be like around, let's say, around 5 rounds. That is the normal options that come up. So you will have an aptitude test. You will have a coding test. That will be the round one. So again, here you will have the hacker rank test, right? So you can again, you can start solving the questions there. You can like hacker rank test is not a test of your coding knowledge here. It is about how well you manage your time, how well you're able to pass your test cases, how well you're able to optimize your code. That is what they're going to see there. See the same question. You can if I like don't give you a time frame, there may be a question to do a string manipulation, something, okay, in the hacker rank. And if I don't give you a time component there, what will happen is you will take all your time. You will be able to complete that within 2 hours. But the pressure comes in when they give you a time there and the time starts ticking down. Okay, they will start with 60 minutes, it will start ticking down. So once you come to that 30 minutes or once you come to that 15 minutes, that is where your heart will start beating. Okay, and you will not be able to remember even the things that you have learned properly. So that is where practice comes in. So again, you can go to HackerRank. HackerRank, everything is going to be free. Okay, everything is available on the internet. In today's world, nothing is like not available, right? Go to HackerRank, pick up these problems, try solving them. So you may fail in a first attempt, or you may not be able to get the correct answer on your first attempt, or you may take, let's say, 5 hours, 6 hours to solve a very simple problem. So don't worry about that. That would be my suggestion again. Don't worry about that. Keep working hard. Try the same problem. So once you have done a problem in 6 hours, again try where you could optimize the code. So where you may have used multiple for loops, you may have used multiple while loops. Some of your test case may be failing. Okay, research on that, why these test cases are failing. And then again try writing that, and again try writing the code. This time what will happen is you will be able to finish it within 4 hours. Again try writing it. So you will definitely, once you start solving more problems, the clock will no longer be a matter there. So even if you have 15 minutes remaining, you will have the confidence that, okay, I still have 15 minutes remaining. I can work on that. I can do a good job here. So that is what will happen. So again, it's going to be all about practice for this coding test. So you may be a very good coder, you may know everything, but it comes down to practice here, because at that point in time, you should know the correct way to solve that problem. So if there is a 1 hour question, my suggestion again would be to like split your time again. So maybe take 10 minutes, first design your approach here. So you might have learned about all these algorithms, all the pseudo codes in your first year. And now you will again wonder, okay, why am I learning this? I'm going to write the code, right? I'll just open the IDE and I'll just type the code. Why do I need my algorithms? Why do I need my pseudo codes? But that is not going to be the case. Again, it is going to be how well you manage your time here. So take the first 5 minutes, take the first 10 minutes and design your approach. Okay, like how many for loops do I need? How do I approach this problem? So once you do that, obviously you will have a very good approach in mind, and you will be able to solve the question in a very faster manner. Okay, and you will know what to write, what comes next. So you will have all your requirements, you will have all your idea perfectly in your mind. So you will be able to solve the problem there. So in your first attempt you may not be successful. Try optimizing the code again, try doing a better job, but the next time try optimizing the test cases and all these things. And then coming down to the aptitude exam, so you will definitely have multiple choice questions as well uh, in 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 your exam. So I think there is this RS Agarwal book, right? The big 500 pages book. So again, it is all going to be about practice. So some of them, I have seen people, some of them like they're able to solve aptitude very fast. Okay, so they have this inbuilt ability. And whenever they take these questions in this class, they may even before you understand the question, people may answer this question. So you may feel that, okay, so I'm not good for this. Only these people are going to get the job. That is again not going to be the case. I have seen people falter even though like they are very good at aptitude, but when it comes to that like half an hour test, right? Something may go wrong. So don't be worried about people like that in your class. Okay. So all you need to do is again do practice. So you will also become that. You will also come to that level. So start with small questions here. Maybe with 5 minutes, like small 5 questions. Do 5 questions a day. Do 10 questions a day. You still have 2 years remaining. So once you go into that fourth year, obviously you will be able to like solve the questions, even though not as fast as them, but you will know the approach. So there is, let's say that there is 1 minute for each question. Okay, there is 1 minute for each question. So that person may be able to do it in 10 seconds, but he's again going to waste the rest 50 seconds, right? So think it in that way. So you take 40 seconds, you take 50 seconds, think twice, use the correct approach, and then solve these questions. Okay. So again, it all comes down to practice here. Do good practice on an aptitude exam and your coding test here. So once you go this, so your first step is now complete. So next steps are going to be technical interviews here. So when you go to this product-based companies, you will definitely have this 2 or 3 technical rounds because they want to test you to see if you are the perfect fit here because they are going to offer you a good salary. Agreed. So when the salary increases, obviously the rounds is also going to increase. That is the basic logic here. Again here, in the classroom, so you get all these foreign authors books, you got all these books here. In the classroom, listen well. I would, again, that is what I would suggest that. So your exams are actually not going to help you. It's a mockery nowadays. You have this open book exams, you have this online test. So that is never going to help you here. But whatever concepts they are teaching in class, actually listen to that. At least something will go into your head here, and you will be able to use this knowledge somewhere during an interviews here. Let's say database systems, you will be like they'll ask you like how do you design a database. So if you have listened to the class, you will know, okay, sir told me this or madam told me this, so that I can do the same thing there. Maybe a operating system, maybe a computer architecture, all these subjects. Again, pick up some subjects like which you are very good at. Some of them may be very good at designing, so database management system is a very good thing. Operating system, some of them may hate operating system, some of them may hate electrical papers and all these things. Okay, don't go for that. Go for then the programming papers like HTML, CSS. Pick up any one language, be strong in that. Again, okay, again, there is no necessity to learn all the languages here. See, all languages are again going to be similar only. It's about using the logics here. So if you know how to implement a for loop, you can always Google and see the syntax for that in Java or see the syntax in C++ here. You should be strong in one language. That is again what I'll say. So prepare for these technical interviews. Again, they will give you scenarios. They will ask you like small snippets of code. They'll ask you like it will be, see, for a fresher, it's going to be basic question. They will just ask you questions and see if your basics are strong. Okay, that is what they are going to test here. So if you're able to give them a very proper answer, like not a mugged up answer, but rather if you are able to understand that and if you're able to like explain them the concept with an example and all these things, obviously they are going to be very impressed with you and they are going to like pick you up for the pick you up for their company here because they know that you are ready to learn. Okay, they know that you are ready to learn. So even if you don't know something, they will give you the required training and then pick you for the job. Okay, so that is the impression that you will have to create. So even though don't know something, be ready to learn. Ask them like, okay, what is the answer for this? Okay, I have no, there is nothing wrong in saying that I don't know the answer for this again in interviews. So go ahead, be ready to learn. Go in with an open mind for these interviews here. Then comes your managerial rounds. Again, it is going to be a chit chat. For the managerial round, they are not going to test your technical skills here because they know that you're good in your operating system or they have that you're good in your cryptography or whatever it is from the second and third round. So this fourth round is going to be all about your communication skills here. So again, some of them may be like very poor in your communication skills. You may not like speak well. You may not know English very well. Some of them may have come from the Tamil medium and all these things. Again, don't worry about that. Some of them may speak very good English. Okay, so you may feel a bit shy to speak with them. That is not going to be the case again here. See, no one is going to judge you here. So at the end of the day, if you speak well, you are going to get a job. So he may get a better job. So we are not worried about that. It's end of the day, we have to get a good job, right? So start speaking. You may make mistakes. Definitely here, all of us are not from England or not from US here. All of us have come from normal Tamil and speaking Tamil and all the Indian languages, and all of us are bound to make mistake. It is not a native tongue that we speak at your home here. So again, start speaking well. Start speaking with your friends. Make mistakes. Again, you will get to learn more. Uh, if you're not good at English, right, my suggestion again would be to start reading a newspaper, maybe the Hindu or the Times of India. Again, nowadays it's again available online. You don't even have to pay now. So start reading newspapers. Even though you don't speak, you will get to learn a lot of new words. So you will be able to like pick up these words. If you don't know the meaning for that, go Google online, see what is the meaning for that and use them. Then try to use them in your sentences. You will find a drastic difference when you start reading a newspaper. You will be able to get a very good knowledge about English and you will be able to communicate very well. Okay. So again, don't get worried about these things. These things start now. Today is again not late at all. Start speaking with your friends. Start learning, and then do that. So coming to your resumes here, I think all of you would not have even started. So start getting a resume ready maybe in your third year once you have your area, once you have your focus points defined, once you have your like which field you want to go in, once you have all these things defined, start getting a resume. Okay. Start preparing a resume, fill out your educational qualifications, mention your projects, mention what you're good at. So mention your hobbies as well. Some of you feel that the resume is only for technical things. That is not going to be the case. So as an interviewer, so when you come for an interview, we want to make you feel comfortable. We definitely know that this is your first interview. So we have all been in that phase where you will be like very tensed. So we want to make you comfortable there. So if you have everything about technical things in your resume, we don't have anything to talk about. So first question, what I'll ask you is, what is your project? But if you mention that I'm good at singing, I'm good at music. So obviously what we'll also try is we'll like speak about that. Okay, what is your favorite music director? Which musics do you listen? So that you will also speak well, you will also be comfortable. You will also get a bond with the interviewer. So that makes the interview even better. Okay. So mention about these things. These things will give you an added advantage so that you will also get to speak more with the interviewer. Interviewer will also have better things to speak at. So and then your projects. Obviously, questions are going to come from your projects. So whatever projects you mention, be uh, work on a real project and then mention that. Again, don't copy it from someone's resume because he may know all the answers, but when I ask you about your projects, you will not know the answers there. So if you have really done that, so whatever question I ask you in that project, you will be able to answer that. So there is going to be no fear factor in you again here. So when you go to the interview, okay, I've done this project, I know what it is. So you're able to explain everything. But when you have not done that, you may know about something there, you may not know about something. So when you go into the interview, you'll go with that fear. Okay, what if he asks me something from the factors that I don't know? So you'll have that fear in your mind. So even though he asks you a very good question, which you know, you will not be able to answer that properly because of that fear. So don't do that. Prepare a project, do a couple of projects, very small projects. We are not expecting you to do an industry level project here. We all know like how much we have to study, how much we have to do, and all these things. Do small projects, very useful projects, and then try it out. Put that in a resume. Prepare well on that. So I have a brother. Okay, he's studying in my first year now. So yesterday, what he did was he also has his online class. So what he has done is he has created a robot. What that will do is it'll automatically turn on the computer at 9 a.m. It'll launch Google Meet and it is going to like turn off the mic and turn off the camera and click on the join button. Okay, so he this guy he never wakes up. So the automatically the robot is going to log into this class and his attendance is going to be captured. So that is a very simple project. So I felt like that is something that very that he was very curious. So these are like common problems, right? You can always try these things out. So even though it is not a like something that you can put on your resume, but you will get a good experience on that. So that is how you find out your problems and you do these things. Then I think LinkedIn is a very good platform. Again, I think you may be like active on Instagram and active on Facebook, but LinkedIn is a platform that will get you jobs. Okay, so you can connect with people on LinkedIn, update your profile. Obviously, recruiters will look at your profile, put up whatever you've done, whatever certifications you've done, put that up on your LinkedIn profile. People will come and see, okay, this guy has done this certification here. Then that means that he's proficient in that. Do that things and keep updating your LinkedIn profile. A good medium to connect with recruiters, good medium to connect with peers, ask your doubts, clarify your doubts, and all these things. And last one is going to be go into the interview with an open mindset, okay? And be ready to learn. Don't be afraid about failures. That is what I'll say. So obviously, first interview, I think they will have 10 slots. 1,000 people are going to like fight for that. Only 10 of you are going to get selected. So rest 990. Rest 990. Don't feel sad about that. You will definitely have a next company coming in. If you are skilled, you will definitely get a job. Okay, that is it's as simple as that. first one may not go correct, take it up as a learning experience. So whatever you are not able to answer in your first interview, again, try seeking the answers for that. Ask the interviewer itself, okay, I don't know this. Can you tell me the answer at the end of the interview? No interviewer will hesitate to give you the answer there. Okay. Or Google it yourself. Okay, these are the questions that would ask. What is the answer for this? It will help you for your next interview. So maybe you, let's say that you have learned 20% in your first interview. In your next interview, when you go, you will know the answers for whatever you did not tell. So it will make you 40%. So like after a couple of interviews, definitely you will know the answers to all the questions. So again, go in with an open mindset, be ready to learn rather. In the interview, what we check is we don't check that if you know the answers to all the questions. So even though you have not answered 100% of the questions, but if you're ready to learn, that would be a very good sign. Because any IT company that you go, being a fresher, they are going to train yourself. Okay, they are going to like train you in Java. They're going to train you in like C Sharp. They are going to train you in Oracle, whatever it is, any technology. So they're looking for people who are ready to learn, who are ready to explore, and who are ready to like have the required analytical skills, not the programming skills here. So if you know like how to build something or how to design something, whatever be the language, you will be able to excel. So that is the logic here. Whatever be the language, you will be able to excel here. So be ready to learn, start preparing, and then like face your interviews without any fear. So even though you're not able to answer well, okay, don't worry about that. Answer your next question very well, and don't think about whatever went wrong. Okay, think about what can be done next. So that is what I would like to say. Yes, I would pretty much end with that. Any questions for me from anyone? I would be very happy to take that questions. I would like to wish you all the best as well.
Students, if you have any doubts, any questions, you can ask.
Your campus interview experience, sir.
Campus interview experience. Okay, fine. So, okay, first company that came in was a company called Vunic. Okay, I still remember that. That was a product-based company, and I did not clear the first round. I think I cleared the I did not clear the first round. So there were like I don't know what happened in that, but I was not able to clear the first round. Then I think the second company that came in, it was also a product company. It was called Urjanet, and yeah, I got through that. Again, programming skills. First company, I was not very good. I did not know like I was not able to solve the problem. Rather, at that point in time, I was not able to answer that question. I did not know the logic for that. But in my second company, again, it was a product-based company, so they had a coding round there. So I was able to solve that. Again, it was a hacker rank question, and I could do well in that. And in all my technical interviews, like no one has asked me very tough questions. As a fresher, no one has asked me very tough questions. So they've asked me like the basics only, like what is cryptography, what is these are subjects that you will learn in your next semesters. Okay, don't worry that you don't know the answers for this. So they may give you a pseudo code. They may give you like how do you optimize the scenario. All these are programs which you should be able to do it yourself. Basic questions. I think if you have studied DBMS in your third semester, you will know like what is an SQL query, what is the select command, what is your like your delete command, and all these things. Maybe a basic difference, the common interview questions, and all these things. So aptitude again have never been very. I would not say that they have been very difficult here. You will definitely get trainings from during the semester holidays, right, from college. I think if you solve them, do your practice. So I did not do much practice. I'll be very frank. I started learning from maybe my third year. That is when I started practicing my aptitudes. Second half of third year, but I was able to do well in my aptitudes. I think with regular practice, it'll come up. It's all about the formulas. It's all about like how well you apply things, how well you understand the question. That is going to come with practice here. Even though you don't know the answer, if you practice much, definitely you will know. Okay, this is how I approach this problem, and all these things. And if you don't know the answers for something, you can pick it up from the options here. Correct. If you pick up the options and if you try substituting that in the question, you may get to know, okay, this answer is working fine. So some things like that. That are some shortcuts which we can try. Obviously, there are going to be shortcuts for aptitude and all these things. And about projects, yes, I did do some projects. I did mention that on my profile. I got some questions from that. Nothing major. Again, what did I do? What did I not do? How did you do this scenario? And all these things. So after that, I think it was pretty much simple only. All companies that at that time they had only two rounds. I think they had only two rounds. They had the technical round and HR round. HR round is going to be like all about a communication skill. They'll ask you about your family, like how are they, what are you doing, what made you take up engineering, questions like this, right? which if you're able to explain them, I think don't fake anything in that interviews. That is what I'll say. Tell them frankly, okay, this is why I took engineering, or my father forced me to take engineering. No one is going to question you that. The interviewer is only going to have a good laugh because he must have also been in that same position there. So that is what I would say regarding my interview experience.
So what are the
Anybody?
programming tools used in RPA developing, sir?
It is going to be C# and .NET programming. The language that we use is C#. I think there is a paper, right? I think we had an elective paper at that point in time called C# and .NET programming, which we had studied. So that was very helpful in when I came into RPA, since I already know C#. So I took up as an elective, and we only had like 30 people who took elective at that point in time, and all others took software testing. So from the entire department, only think out of the 250 people, only 30 people took .NET programming, while all remaining 220 took software testing during that year. I still remember only one class used to get the software testing. This C# programming. So that was very helpful when I went into the RPA. Since I already know C#, they put me into the C# training only for a week, and then they put me into RPA directly there. So major program is going to be C#. But now there are tools available called UiPath's again a tool. There is a tool called Brew Prism, Automation Anywhere. All these are tools where it is going to be drag and drop. The core behind that is going to be built using C# and .NET. But again, it is going to be drag and drop. Where drag and drop is not going to help you, that is where we will do our programming there. So you can try out with these tools, start downloading the tool, just try out how they work. You will get a feel of things, and then you will be able to understand that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Yeah, any other queries, students? Yeah, Mr. Jitin, can you please share your mail ID as well as your contact number so that if they have any queries regarding the RPA, they can contact you.
Sure, sir. I'll put that in the chat box.
Okay. Or if you just ping me, I will just share it in the group.
Sure, sir. I'll
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, students, if you have any queries regarding the RP at any time, you can contact Mr. Jitin. He's there to help you out. And thank you, Mr. Jitin. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you, sir. Again, a pleasure talking with everyone. So all the best to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jitin. And the next, I'd like to call upon Mr. Hari Prasad, our next resource person. He is from the batch 2012 to 2016. So Mr. Hari Prasad is having a 5+ years experience of IT. He started his career with the Wipro Limited as a technical trainer, and as a part of the talent transformation team, he delivered trainings across Wipro offices for freshers and experienced professionals. Then he moved to HCL Technologies and worked as Python developer for around 3 years. Then he moved to Tata Communications Limited and worked as assistant manager. Currently, he is working at Ernst & Young as full stack developer. So, welcome you, Mr. Hari Prasad. Hari Prasad, are you there?
Thank you so much for
Yeah, you can share your screen, Mr. Hari Prasad.
yeah, sure. Okay, let me share my screen. Let me know once it is visible. Guys, can you able to see my screen?
No, Hari.
1 second, sir. I just reshare it. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Thanks. So good evening, everyone. Again, happy to meet you all in this evening. I'm Hari Prasad. As James sir rightly mentioned, currently I'm working as a full stack engineer in Ernst & Young, which is a top audit firm. Just today I'm here to discuss about the steps involved in placement preparation. So before starting this topic, I would like to give you a brief introduction on what are all the things that are running in IT, what are all the job opportunities that you have as a part of IT employee. Normally, if you say IT employee, people used to think only two skill sets. One is developer, another one is a tester. So, but that is not so. We have lot of options and opportunities there in IT field to learn, and there are a lot of opportunities to scale up your skills, right? So there are different roles available. First is a developer. As you know, there are different categories of developer that you might not aware of. So normally people used to ask, if someone is working in IT, there will be only two questions: whether are you working as a developer or are you working as a tester? But that is not the case. We have different opportunities in any IT sector. You can take any company. We have different opportunities or different roles, I can say. So some of them are listed here in the screen. One is a developer. So in developer itself, you have different subsections wherein you have front-end developer who will develop the screen using HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, or any front-end technologies. They will develop the
Hari,
front-end screen.
Hari,
Yes, sir. Yes, madam.
slide is not moving. Pa.
Oh, maybe I have moved it. Just
Yes,
one
yes.
second, ma'am.
Yes, now you're having it with IT.
Okay. Let me reshare it. Is it fine now, madam?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You
So
run
in
the
developer,
slides. You didn't run now.
yeah, I just started.
Okay.
So in developer itself, we have different options. One is a full stack, front-end engineer or front-end developer who will develop the front-end screen. If you take Facebook or any application, you have a front-end for it, right? Which is decorated with HTML, CSS, and a lot of front-end stuff. So the person who sits and develops this front-end is said to be a front-end engineer or front-end developer. So again, a back-end developer. So once you click on the button in the front end or do some operations in the front end, it has to connect with the backend to perform some logic, right? Say, for example, you're logging in through Facebook and you're just giving your username and password. And once you click on login button, something should happen in the backend so that it will retrieve the information, it will validate your login, and it will redirect to your homepage. Something should happen, right? So such logics will be written by backend engineer. So for that, again, different programming languages are used. That is, I'm going to discuss next. And database. So everything like about your data, your login mechanisms, your username, password, your post, everything needs to be stored into database. So definitely there will be a person who will work on database design, architecture, and query writing. A lot of things needs to be optimized in the database. So those people who are dedicatedly ready to work on database is said to be a database developer or a DB engineer. Then API is an application interface which talks between the front and back end using technologies like REST, SOAP, and all. So the one who's working there is said to be API developer or API engineer. Again, if you are ready to work on all these fields, front end, back end, database, and API, then you are said to be a full stack engineer. So if I say full stack engineer, what does it mean in the sense? The person who's ready to work end to end from front end, back end, database, API, everything. If you can work, then you are said to be a full stack engineer. So the pay wise, say for example, front end engineer is getting paid, say for example, 4 lakh LPA. Then backend engineer is getting paid 4 lakh LPA. So when it comes to full stack engineer, you are going to do both front end, back end, and even DB, API, everything. So definitely the pay wise, it will be very high if you are working as a full stack engineer. Maybe I'm not sure about as a fresher, but once you get experience as a full stack engineer, the scope and the payout will be very high if you work as a full stack engineer. So what I request you guys is, if you are interested to become full stack engineer, please start preparing from now itself, because whatever the things that you're learning as a part of your academics may not help you to become a full stack engineer. Those are all foundations of computer science, which is again mandatory and important, but unfortunately they are not up to the standards of full stack engineer or any IT role. So you have to gear up and you have to learn new skills in order to make you fit for the recent trends. That is very important, guys. So whatever that you are learning as a part of your college curriculum will be just a foundation. But again, definitely the foundation is highly important. But in addition to that, you're supposed to learn any technologies wherein you can, grab new skill sets of IT or emerging skill sets, right? So again, when it comes to testers, there are two categories of testers. There are a lot of categories. Just to summarize, there are two categories. One is manual, another one is the automation tester. Manual, we don't have any scope, and it's very easy, and there is no scope at all. So you can join a company as a manual tester, but in future, if you want to move, or else if you want to increase your salary in terms of the in the same company also, the manual testers don't have job security as well, and they don't build their skill sets also, because it's just simple as such. Anyone can do, even students who studied HSC plus 2 can do that. So there is no scope for it. So if you are planning to become a tester, so my choice is use learn automation skills, learn automation testing. There are a lot of automation tools. You have Selenium, you have UFT, Unified Functional Tester. Just go and search automation tools. There are different categories in the automation tool itself. You have a functional automation testing tools, non-functional automation testing tools, load testing tools. Lot of things are there. There are tools which you can easily learn. Again, for testing also, you have to have logic building skill sets. You should know programming. So if you think tester, just don't assume that testers don't write any code. It's completely faulty statement. Testers also need to write code. That is where automation testing comes into picture. If you are a manual tester, that's fine, absolutely okay. You don't need to write any code. But unfortunately, the job security, job trends, number of postings, everything is no more if you are a manual tester, because everything is getting converted into automation. So just don't think that normally people used to think this way if they are doing engineering. So if you are bad at development, if you are bad at programming, then people used to suggest, okay, you can go as a tester, you do manual testing and earn the same money whatever developer is gonna get. No, that is no more. So automation is the only field which is active and alive in the testing department. There is no manual testing era. So it's already completed. So make sure that if you have that mindset, testers also need to learn programming. Okay, so it's like equivalent to developer knowledge you should need to have in order to withstand in the testing role also. And coming to DevOps engineers, so if you are interested in development and operations like packaging, containerizing, and other stuff, you can just learn technologies like Docker and certain things like Jenkins. Those things you can learn. So it's a DevOps operations for continuous integration, CI/CD pipelines. So you can learn that bit as well if you are interested. But major role is given to development and testing. Again, CI/CD pipelines also are equally important. But yes, so opportunities wise, if you say for 10 developers, there will be only 2 or 3 CI/CD engineers. So coming back next opportunity available is the network engineer. So network engineer who deals with the networks and all those operations related to networking, computer, those things. Again, for those also, we have to automate bit of things, and again, programming is essential. Normally, those who are weak in development or logical building, they will again looking for this network engineer role. So again, network engineer also needs to learn programming, because everything end of the day needs to be automated, or somewhere or other programming it gets involved. Then architect engineer, who's good at designing the architecture of the database, designing the framework of the application, designing the architecture of the application, how it works. It again requires a lot of knowledge on each and every field, because if you are developing, that's fine. But if you are architecting, you are going to build the foundation of the application. You are going to say how the application exactly needs to architect. So it is very important. Lot of skill set is required if you want to become a architect engineer, because you are going to put your entire efforts to frame the architecture. You have to consider a lot of things like what are all the tools you are going to use, what are all the technologies you are going to bring in, what are the ways you can optimize it. So a lot of things you have to consider. So again, knowledge in programming side is important if you want to become an architect engineer also. Then tech trainers. So if you don't want to become a developer, tester, DevOps engineer, or any other role which I have mentioned just about, you can become a technical trainer. But again, for technical training, you should have very good skill set and very good communication skills. So because if you're good at Java, yes, you can go ahead and give a Java training. That doesn't matter. But if you're working for a corporate, they will ask you to take different trainings. One day they'll say you go ahead and take Java. Second day they'll come up and say you go ahead and take Python. So you should have proper, upskilling, so that you can pick up to any languages if they are recommending for. Say for example, today they are asking for you to learn Python, and tomorrow you want to deliver training in Python. You should be able of. So then only you can choose this role, tech trainer. But very excellent role. Why I'm saying that is there will be no pressure other than learning. Learning is always there wherever the field you are choosing for. Either it's a developer, tester, definitely you have to learn. I'll say IT is an infinite learning. Instead of information technology, it is infinite learning. There are a lot of things you have to learn every day. then only you can survive in this industry. Else, it will be hard to survive. So analysts who will do these operations of again development, testing, all those things, they will do some data science, machine learning stuff to analyze certain things to graph. They just do work with data sciences and machine learning topics. So those are said to be analysts. So in addition to this, whatever I have discussed so far, there are enormous roles other than this which I have not mentioned because of time being. So what I'm trying to convey is, so just don't think that in IT there is only one role which is development. No, it is not so. We have lot of roles available, but max of the roles, 99.99% of the role requires programming skills. So if you are the one who don't know programming or who don't like to become a programmer, then don't have the mindset that I can become a tester, I can become a network engineer. No, it is not gonna work. Definitely foundations of programming is highly, highly important to survive in the IT industry, right? So being said that, just move to the next slide. Current full stack trends. So I'm working as a full stack developer so that I can give you some basic information on what are all the current trends that is running the world, IT world right now. Maybe after you complete your engineering, there are certain changes. There might be new technologies that come in. But as of now, it is good to learn these full stack technologies and get yourself ready for your placement. So as I said before, rather than a front end or back end or DB engineer or tester, the highly paid skill set is the full stack engineer. Full stack engineer is the one who gets more than anyone else in the above mentioned skill set. So if you say full stack, as I said before, you should be able to do front end, back end, database, and CI/CD optionally you should know of. Right. So first one, if you take front end, normally front ends will be developed with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We know that, right? But that is not the case right now. So nowadays everything is, in terms of frameworks. We have JavaScript frameworks like React, Angular, Vue. So these frameworks you should be aware of. If you say you're a front-end developer or if you're a full-stack developer, then as a part of front-end skill set, you should be aware of React or Angular or Vue. It is not mandatory that you should know all these things. It's not possible practically as a fresher, even for an experienced professional, but at least grab one. I believe React is in the higher end right now. So in terms of,
Full
the
stack
number of
developer
companies.
screen is not visible, sir.
I'm not sure. I moved the screen. Just 1 second. Let me reshare.
Currently with visible before now.
Now visible, sir.
Okay, fine, no issues. Okay, let me know if the screen is not visible so that I'll be, aware of. Right.
When you're keeping it, it is there. Then it's not moving it.
Okay. I'm not sure about the issue, madam. Okay, let me see in the next slide.
Okay.
Is it visible if I change?
Okay, sir. No.
Now
Okay,
it's
fine.
visible.
So then let me not play it up and let me just move it. Okay, so as I said before, in front end, you should know any one front end technology or front end framework, React, Angular, or Vue. Choice is yours. You can learn anything, but current trending is React. Okay, compare Angular is also there. High recommended technology only, but highly recommended technology to learn is React. Then comes Angular, then comes Vue. That's why I have written in the hierarchy React, Angular, and Vue. So all of them look similar. There is no big change. If you know one full stack technology, one JS framework, then other things look very similar. Some syntax change will be there, but the conceptual knowledge, whatever you are going to get, will be same across the JS framework. So just don't think that front-end developer only works with HTML or CSS. No, they are going to work with frameworks like React or Angular or Vue. So just start learning. There are a lot of YouTube videos. There are a lot of Udemy videos. A lot of things are there to learn, to upskill. Just start with HTML, CSS because those are all foundations, as I said before. Then you scale up into skills like React, Angular, or Vue. Take any one framework, learn it. Once you get confidence, then move out to other frameworks. That will be very easy for you. There will be only syntax changes, nothing else. Then coming to backend, if you say backend, there are a lot of languages comes into picture. You have Java, Python, PHP, a lot of things are there. But I'm working as a Python developer, so I can just specify Python. Python is very easy, as you know. There will be a lot of built-in support and easy to understand. A lot of things, high-level programming. Comparative to Java, Python is easy to learn and grab knowledge. So if you take Python, just don't stop with Python. You have to learn frameworks for developing backend. Like we have in Python, we have Flask, Django, Fast API. A lot of frameworks are there. Just go ahead and Google it. Just learn foundation language first, which is Python. Then start learning about the frameworks like Flask, Django, or Fast API, or some other frameworks also if you are aware of. Just learn it. But currently, if you take Python, the highly needed framework is Django. So Django is the framework for bigger applications, or you can say complex application development. So you just start with Flask. Flask is a lightweight web application framework. Then slowly learn Django. It will be same. So if you learn Python properly, then there is no difficulty in learning Flask or Django. Just Python syntax only you are going to write. Just you need to understand what to write, where to write, and how to write. That's it. So then it will be very easy. So if you want to become a mean stack developer, just learn Express.js. But I recommend for front end, you can use React. For back end, you can learn Django, because that is really recommended skill set right at this point of time. So companies are looking for a people who are aware of React or Django. As a fresher, just having a fundamental foundation is sufficient. You don't need to be an expert or pro in this field. No need. Just learn the basics and foundations. That then, if you are interested, if you have time, just develop some applications out of it. Then increase your skill set, right? So because as a fresher, the expectations from the companies are very minimal. It is not something like they want you to be a pro or expert in the technologies. No, just the intermediate knowledge to answer what is what, that will be sufficient. So just if you prepare all these things now itself, when you go for a company, when you are going to work as a full stack engineer, that will be easy. Your life will be very easy, and you will be already aware of this is the part I'm going to work on. If you don't know anything, then if you're just going and joining the company, that time if you start learning all these things, then it will be difficult, right? So just start preparing for your foundation. Once you join, you can easily grab into the next step. Then database, as you said in your curriculum, you might have already studied SQL, or if not, you will study in the upcoming semesters. So just have a good knowledge on SQL. It may be RDBMS or NoSQLs like MongoDB and all, but at least have good knowledge on RDBMS, that is sufficient. So CI/CD, as I said before, just start to explore what is a Docker. I'm not saying you study and be an expert. No, just start to explore what is a Docker, what is CI/CD is all about. Maybe you might have aware of front end, back end, DB and all, but you might not aware of what is a CI/CD and all, right? So just start exploring these terms which is being currently used in the IT. Normally, if you go to a company, they'll say these words, CI/CD, pipelining, these stuff, integrations, those things. Just learn what is it. Just learn what are all things happening in the IT industry. Then if you go and enter, it will be more easy, right? So this is about a full stack glance. So you have to be expert in front end, back end, DB, then you have to be a full stack engineer. So my recommendation is for front end, you go with React. For back end, you go with Django. For DB, you can choose anything, RDBMS, or you can go for MongoDB, like NoSQL, something like that. So before that, if you want to learn frameworks like React or Angular, basic knowledge on JavaScript, basic knowledge on HTML and CSS is mandatory. If you want to become a backend developer with Django, then definitely knowledge on Python is mandatory. Then only you can able to learn Django, right? So these are all the things you have to be aware of. And coming to the agenda for this day, is it visible, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So coming to agenda of the day, we'll discuss the objective for this today's session. So what we are going to do and what are all the things that we are going to talk. Then we will start, learning about the steps involved in placement preparation. So there are a lot of steps, but they are all very easy, right? So I'll just explain that bit. Then we'll go for boosting your performance. So how will you boost your performance? What are all the things that you have to consider in order to increase your performance? Then finally, we'll have a short Q&A session and we'll close up the session. So let's discuss the objective. So today we are all here just to understand how we can get the job, how we can get placed. So that is what we are going to look for, right? So the simplest answer is getting a job is not so difficult as you think as a fresher. So even experienced professionals, it might be quite hard, depends on the role that they are doing, depends on the technology they are working. There are a lot of questions. You're all freshers. So there will be very minimal expectations from the interviewer. They're not going to write a big complex program. They're not asking you to solve a big complex algorithm. No. If you're experienced, right, they will ask you to solve a lot of real world problems. But you're all freshers. They know that you have minimal knowledge, but you have to prepare for it and you have to understand what are all the things that you have to learn in order to get placed. So that is only one thing you have to keep in mind. So as I said, getting job is not at all difficult as a fresher, but it simply requires a preparation. So what's a preparation means? What are all the things you have to prepare? That is what we are going to discuss. And later I'll tell you my interview experience and what are all the offers I have received so far and what preparation I made for it. Those things I'll cover at the end of the session. But to be simple, just have an idea that getting a job in IT field is not at all difficult. You know, right, during this pandemic situation, many people lost their job from different industries. Like you can take, especially the people who are working in mechanical industries, those who are running their own businesses, those who are having their own ventures, they all, lost their jobs. If not job, there will be salary reductions. A lot of things happening might be you're aware of, right? But only field who are giving more hike, who are recruiting people at this pandemic situation is the IT field. So it's running like, trillion times better than the before pandemic situation. So nowadays job requirement is highly, highly demanding in IT field. So it is very important that don't have a mindset. Normally, if you see a movie or if you see some other people who already studied and passed out engineering, they will tell this factor. If you study engineering, you will not get job. That is the 99.99 people's opinion right now. Again, that's a falsy opinion, I can say, because the job is there, but you have to make yourself fit for it, right? So if you are good at Python, if you're good at Django, then you can go and apply for a job for Python developer. If you don't know Python, you just studied only engineering, and then you want to become a Python developer, you are searching a job, they are looking for a Python profile, and you don't have Python in your profile, then you will come back and say that there is no scope in IT, there is no scope in engineering. It's a falsy statement, right? So just prepare yourself first. So if you are prepared, if you have the skill set, then definitely you will get the job. Don't think about this falsy statement, which is nowadays 99% of the people in the world talking like this only. So if you study engineering, you will go jobless, you will go and do some other job, you will go and do ME, and you will again, after doing ME, you will not get job. People used to tell all these stories. They remain as stories. It's not reality. Jobs are there, jobs are high, they are ready to pay more also, but check whether you have the skill set. So if you have the skill set, then definitely the probability of getting job is really, really high. If you don't have skill set, then you will become a one person who will join in the group, and you will also say that if you study engineering, you will not get job. So who will say all these things is who don't have skill set will say all these things, right? So if you have skill set, I'm damn sure that you will get 4 to 5 offers in your hand at the end of your engineering, because we know, I also studied from PEC. There are a lot of companies who will come and hire you, but what they look for is a good profile, good skill set. So if you have that, definitely you will get placed, right? So what are all the steps? Now, as I said, job is there, job is high, it's demanding now, right now, maybe in future also it is expected to be demanding. So what are all the things that you have to make yourself, and what are all the things that you have to put in your mind to prepare and get a job? So let's classify this into 2 categories. One is non-technical preparation, another one is a technical preparation. So what is a non-technical preparation is all about? Just a minute, guys. So there are certain factors you have to prepare. So as a part of non-technical, and as a part of technical, you have to prepare certain things. Let's discuss that. Non-technical preparation, develop your aptitude skills. As I said before, any company who comes in and who are ready to hire a fresher, they will look for a person. The first round will be aptitude, right? So aptitude in the sense they'll ask you to, prepare for, they will check your reasoning skill set, they will check your quant skill set, they will check your verbal skill sets, right? Maybe you might have got a book from your college R.S. Agarwal book, if I'm not wrong. Just go through, solve all the problems, just solve all aptitude questions that you have in that book, and just search for aptitude questions online. There are a lot of websites like indiabix.com is there, m4math.com is there. There are a lot of platforms. Even in YouTube nowadays, channels are there who will teach you aptitude questions, right? How to solve certain problems in a simplest way. Those shortcuts, tricks, they'll teach you. Just watch all those videos. Just learn from the environment, learn from Google, learn from the book, R.S. Agarwal book. So just have a good aptitude skill set, because if you are weak in aptitude, then it's gone. You will not get a chance to move further your resume to the next level. This is the first and foremost step. So if you don't have aptitude skill set, your profile will not move to the next round at all. So just make sure you prepare well, and you prepare. You have to spend a lot of time in the aptitude skill set. That's what I would try to convey. Then communication skill set. Normally, people should have good communication skill set than technical skill set. That is my opinion. May not be wrong, may be wrong, right? So what I'm trying to convey is have a good communication skill set so that it will increase the probability of getting placed. So I just talk about this bit later. Then start preparing your resume. So resume plays an important role. Don't copy it. Normally people used to do this. They copy resume from your friend and they'll just change the name and contact number, mail ID, and they will throw it up to the interview desk. No, that doesn't going to work, because your resume is something you have to sit and prepare. So prepare proper resume, know whatever the things, whatever the things you're expert in, whatever the things that you're aware of, put that in your resume. Don't put everything. Normally people used to put Java, C++, C#, .NET, everything. Though they are not even aware of what it is, they'll put it. Just don't do that mistake. Each and every word in your resume should be proper and must be known to you. So if you are putting something which is not aware of, which you are not aware of, then it will create a problem back to you, right? So just make sure to prepare a proper resume. So as I said before, aptitude skill set, use online websites. As I said, IndiaBix is there, M4 Math is there. Lot of online platforms are there to learn aptitude problems. Just learn it. Importantly, it's about time. Normally 45 questions to 50 questions being asked, and the time given for solving the problems will be very minimal. So you have to find a way to solve the problems in a shorter way. So learn tricks and shortcuts. Normally nowadays in YouTube channels and all, you can see a lot of videos teaching how to solve problems in a simpler way and how to use tricks to solve complex problems. Just learn all those tricks and apply it. Practice, that is very important. So if you just see the video, that doesn't work. You have to sit and practice it. Practicing will increase your aptitude skill, rather than just seeing a video, just seeing the problems in your book. That doesn't gonna work. Just sit and practice, sit and solve problems. Give more importance to practice. So this is how you can improve your aptitude skills. Coming to communication skills, there are 5 factors to consider. One is listen. How to improve your communication skill? First factor is listen. If someone is talking in English, just sit and listen how they are talking. That is the first and foremost step to increase your communication skill. Just listen how they are talking, then learn from them. So if they are using new words, normally in your college, if your professor is teaching something, if he is using new words which is not aware of, then you just learn it, learn from them, then read it. Have a reading just you can use platforms like online platforms are there nowadays. Times of India, as Jitin mentioned, you can read newspapers and then you can communicate. You can just improve your communication. Then repeat in the sense, you should not do these things for a one day. Today I'm going to Times of India website and reading all these things. Next day you will not become a pro in communication. No, it is not going to work that way around. So repeat it. Every day you have to repeat it. Just listen if someone is speaking in English, then learn new words, learn from the people who are speaking in English, then read newspapers, read online articles related to technology or even non-technical topics. Also, you can choose and read it and repeat this activity and optimize. When you speak, first attempt itself, it will not be proper. 99% of time you will do mistakes. So just try to optimize. So if you just try to optimize your communication skills just by doing the cycle again and again and again, so that you will get confidence. Important factor of communication is confidence. Even if you know that you are not good in English, Just erase that from your mind. Just have a mind that I know English, I know how to communicate properly. That will give you confidence. That will take you to the next step of communication. So if you don't have confidence, then definitely it is hard to crack the communication skill. So just be confident. That is the first step. Then do these activities, whatever mentioned in the slide. That will definitely help you to grow further, right? Then technical preparation as a fresher, it is mandatory to learn logic building. So when I say logic building, it is irrespective of language. C, C++, Java, Python, Perl, Ruby, Scala, a lot of languages are there, right? So irrespective of language, learn how to build logic. Say, for example, today I'm coming and asking you how to solve the Fibonacci problem. Just simple example. So now, irrespective of programming, you should know how to write an algorithm to approach the problem. So just you should know how to solve the problem. Just write a pseudocode, write an algorithm. Then if you have the algorithm or pseudocode that can be transformed into any language, it may be C or C++ or Java, it can be easily transformed, right? So just learn logic building rather than programming. Once you are fit into logic building, then you can transform your logic into any programming language, right? So just learn how to build your logic building. There are a lot of YouTube channels again available to build logic building, and use HackerEarth, HackerRank, Coding Bat. Lot of platforms are there nowadays to practice your logic building. So use those platforms. Definitely you will get errors. You will not solve problems at the first step itself. Just do practice more again and again and again so that you will get confidence. First time, definitely you will get error. Second time also you will get error. 100th time also you will get error. No problem. You practice, just Google it. If you're getting some error, just don't look into the error. Just read the error, understand what line it is giving the error, what is the exact error it is giving. Then if you're not aware of, Google it. Probably from Stack Overflow or any forums, there will be a discussion about the error. Just read and understand how to solve it. Thus, you can improve your logic building skill set. Then, important to have CS specific knowledge. Might be you've studied a lot of papers related to CSE like OS, computer networks, computer architecture, algorithms. Have basic foundation. Again, I'm not telling to be expert. Don't be expert. Yes, it's fine if you are interested into computer networks or OS, you can become an expert into it. But it is not possible to become expert on every topic, right? So just understand what it is. If you say OS, just understand foundation. If you say computer networks, just understand what it is, what is switch, what is router, what is hub. Just the fundamental knowledge you should be aware of, right? So other domain specific knowledge is good to have. Like if you are interested in cloud computing, CI/CDs, if you're interested in Docker or something else, just grab the knowledge. It's optional, but it's good to have, right? Then coming to other important factors, maintain good CGPA. Academic performance is really important, not only for the fresher interview. Again, once you become experienced, once you are going and applying for other companies, that time also the first consideration is your mark in terms of whatever you got in your engineering. So maintain good CGPA. Just know fundamentals of recent technologies. If you say cloud or cryptography or something like that, which is new and trending in IT, just know the foundations. At least you should know what is what, right? Then have basic idea on each computer science subject. If I say what is a Big O notation or what is mean by Kruskal's algorithm, you should know what it is, at least a foundation. No need to be expert, no need to implement, no need to solve problems related to it. Just have knowledge what it is, how it works. Just a foundation or abstract information about the particular topic is mandatory to have. Then boost your performance to increase your visibility of your profile. These are all the things you can do. One, do mini projects. If you don't have any idea about mini project, at the end, I'll be able to give my contact number or mail ID. You can mail or contact. I'll give you an idea about mini projects. Then publish papers. When I say publish papers, it should be in a recognized journal. It should not be in a local journal. Use recognized journals and publish papers. Then get certifications. Again, when I say certification, it's not from something like Udemy or Coursera. It should be from Microsoft or Google certification. Then team your final year project. So once you go and appear for interview, that time the first question will be, what's your final year project idea? So that time you might not have final year project in your hand because might be you're studying 6th or 7th semester. So at least have idea what you're going to do in your final year. Just theme it and keep it for a sake of interview at least. Then do internships. So there are a lot of companies providing internships. Identify one and do it. have a good LinkedIn profile. It's very important to keep your LinkedIn profile so that the probability of getting chance is very, jobs is very high. Then build your area of interest. So as I said before, if you want to become a full stack engineer, start from now itself. Build your area of interest. If you want to become a backend engineer, start now itself. Learn Python, learn necessary skill sets required to become a full stack developer or backend developer. Just identify your area of interest and start working on that from now itself. Then general interview process, I believe Jitin covered this bit. So just to give you an overview, you have definitely aptitude round, then programming test nowadays being conducted online, then probably GD. Then normally nowadays companies conducting 2 levels of technical interview. It is not limited to 1 level, 2 levels of interviews being conducted. Then managerial round, which is not technical, just to check your communication skills. HR discussion, just to understand your willingness to do the job and other stuff, right? So that's all about for the day. So if you have any questions, you can just unmute and you can ask. I'm happy to answer all those.
Any queries you can ask students? No more questions?
Sir, as a full stack developer, we have to concentrate on web programming, web developing, or in app developing, sir.
There are 2 ways. If you're interested to learn mobile application development, well and good. You can learn React Native, Flutter is there. A lot of technologies related to that bit is there. But definitely, again, if you say full stack developer, it involves both front end and back end, right? So front end, if you go for a mobile application development, the technologies varies. Instead of React Native will come into picture. More or less, they are same, but language varies, framework varies. React Native is there, Flutter is now emerging and trending. So those things you can use for mobile application development. But if you want to become a web full stack developer, then you can learn React.js or something like that. But backend DB remains the same, irrespective of whether it is a mobile application or web application. It's gonna be the same. You can use Python or Java. If you take Java, there are frameworks like Spring, Hibernate, Struts, all those things are there. If you take Python, you have Flask, Fast API, Django, all those things comes into picture. Backend remains the same. Front end, you can just identify according to your wish. If you want to become a web app developer, then you choose from React or Angular. If you want to become a mobile app developer, you can choose something like Ionic is there, Flutter is there, React Native is there. Similarity wise, if you know React Native is nothing. It's very simple. Small differences will be there. That's it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions?
So just I populated my contact number and mobile number. So you can just have a look into it. And if you have any concerns or doubt in the future, you can ping me here. I'll be able to support you.
Thank you, Hari Prasad. It is a wonderful and informative session you have given.
Thank you, madam. Thanks for your time as well. And all the best for everyone.